Welcome to Law Flip. It is a fun conversation. So I have my man Alan Mork here. He is one of the top caterers in the business, in the movie business. He is flying around the country. He's dealing with COVID policies and regulations from whether he's in the red states, the blue states. He gives us insight into what it's like on the sets. We talk about Kim Kanye. We talk about Coachella and Stagecoach and how they've basically made it so that they are not having any COVID policies whatsoever. We talk all things COVID, masks, vaccines. We talk about the Alec Baldwin lawsuit. We talk about the Newtown shooting settlement of $73 million. We talk about Trump's new social media platform called Truth Social, which is just amazing that it's called Truth Social. We talk about Facebook's $90 million settlement, and we have my man Alan to tell us about his entrepreneurial journey in the catering field and so much more. Also, I have a tech platform that I've built for lawyers by lawyers. It's called LawFlip, the same name of this podcast. You could find out more at www.lawflip.com. It allows lawyers to refer business, to get cases. It is amazing, if I don't say so myself.
And I get to chime in this episode.
Ooh, Ariane gets to chime. We have a whole new format. We're talking trending topics. It's fun. So get into the episode right now.
Law flip, objection, your honor. Turn the game upside down. Law flip, objection, your honor. Turn the game upside down.
We have Alan Mork in the building. So last week we had D. Murthy, who let us use his facility here to shoot our podcast. We have Alan Mork here. And I really wanted to have Alan on because, among other things, he's funny, smart, always opinionated. But this guy's been working in the film catering business forever, and there's so much going on in the event space with like the changing vaccine policies and mask policies and all this stuff. I wanted to get his take also on a couple lawsuits, the Alec Baldwin lawsuit on set. I want to get his take on like what is it like on set and the COVID regulations and the safety precautions. And just really timely. So super excited to have you on, Alan.
Thank you.
Tell us just really briefly, like, what do you do? And what's the landscape like generally right now on on sets of movies and television shows?
Right now it's blown out of control with Apple and Amazon and Netflix and all these new medias. It's the business has jumped like 25%. So what I do is I feed them breakfast and lunch, regardless. Like we start somewhere, like if it's a movie of 40 days in regards to go to the mountains, the beach, San Diego or whatever. It's all across the country though, and we'll feed them breakfast and lunch everywhere we go.
And what's the COVID landscape like right now? What are you required to do as a caterer? What's the landscape on the set?
It just completely changed. It used to be like a self-serve buffet, and now it's basically we have to package every meal, and like the salads have to be prepackaged, and it's individual stuff,
that's right now, or
that's right now.
Do you think it's changing at all?
Probably not for another 2-3 years.
Oh, really?
Unless something happens faster, but I don't see it changing.
Is that easier for you guys, or is it harder?
No, it's a little harder, and then it's like the mask, the whole thing. Like you got to be wearing it all day. Yeah. And when you're in front of a 500-degree grill, it's like it could be killer for you because
that's brutal. And they're taking it seriously. Like they're.
Oh yeah, well it depends. It's like it's always like the studio's gonna put someone in charge, but how do you, you don't have any past experience as so you bring in like these 23-year-old kids, like like the hall monitor back in the day. It's like, hey, wear your mask, blah blah blah.
Right. All right. So we're gonna get more into that. I want to start off with we have to just update like Kim and Kanye. So. I mean, you can't even keep track of this thing. It's so crazy. So essentially what's happening is the divorce is going on. Kanye's looking at Pete Davidson hanging out with his wife and he's pissed off. And the latest is he's taking accountability for abusing caps locks and sharing Kim's text messages. Kim said that Kanye was creating a scary environment for her, the kids, and her current boyfriend, Pete Davidson. Then Kanye, very surprisingly, I've never seen him do this ever, basically admitted he was kind of in the wrong. He took some accountability. He said he's working on his communication skills, and he apologized for leaking the text. And then he said something really weird. He said, I can benefit from a team of creative professionals, organizers, mobilizers, and community leaders. And I was like, I just thought that was so bizarre because, like, first of all, what does that have to do with anything? Like, what does him, like, having access to a team of creative professionals have to do with him, like, posting stalkerish stuff about Kim Kardashian?
Being yay.
It's just yay being yay. And then the other thing is like who's holding him back from having a team of professionals? The guy is like worth $1 billion. What is going on here, Alan? Tell me.
It's just the ego. The ego's getting killed in the public eye, you know. That's why he hooked up with this chick, and she was like the chick.
Julia Fox.
No, the Kim.
Oh, why he hooked up with her in the first place?
Yeah, in the first place, because he wants.
Do you think he's actually pissed off about the divorce, or you think it's more about like just his ego?
I think it's both. You know, it's like you don't leave me, I leave you. You know, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think I'm sure she would be pretty fun to be with. She's good looking. She's successful. But it does seem like it's more of like a ego thing than like he really like. I think he loves the idea of her more than anything, and obviously it's the mother of his children. So I don't know. I mean, it's getting to dangerous territory. He's like literally like kind of threatening her. Arian, what do you think?
I think it's fucked up. I think everything he's doing is fucked up. Like you were saying this, we were talking about this before the pod. Like if this was some rando,
yeah.
Like this would be absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, because
like
we're
he needs
looking
to
at
take a seat and get out of this picture.
Like we're looking at it as like it's a show. Which look, the Kardashians and Kanye are a show, but like if this was just Billy Joe and his ex-wife, this is like really crazy stuff.
Yeah.
He's like threatening her. He's threatening the boyfriend on social media. So it's nuts. So speaking of Kanye, he's going to be headlining Coachella and alongside Harry Styles and Billie Eilish. And then for Stagecoach, I don't know who's headlining Stagecoach, but they just announced. So after revealing that last fall that vaccines would not be required for entry, both Coachella and Stagecoach have further revealed that there will no longer be any COVID-related barriers to entry at all, not even negative tests, nor will a requirement to wear mask figure into the picture. So, and this is like, I think it's relevant to Coachella, but I think there is no chance that like a concert like Stagecoach, which is a very like country-driven type thing, that in this climate they were going to be able to like really require a ton of people to do all the vaccine stuff. And this goes into like your experience, like what on the sets, these superstars that are coming on sets, where is the divide on people that are like complaining the entire time versus like are people just super woke and like scared to even speak up?
Like pretty much now everyone's got to be vaccinated, so everyone jumped on board, and it's like, and now before everyone used to mingle, but now it's very separate. So that
it really is. So they really are like on the sets. They really are.
Yeah, it's like the talent doesn't leave their trailer. You don't see them anymore. And it's like, before everyone would intermingle, it was like hanging out, but now it's like very, very segregated. Like the office is in their space, and the talent, and then everyone else.
Is anybody like on set? Is anybody saying like this is a pain in the ass?
Yeah, everyone is, but what can you do? You know what I mean?
Has that slowed things down?
Not really. They're going and going. They don't care. You know what I mean? It's like.
Got it. Okay, so that's that. And then just moving on to just the whole masking thing. So the CDC is expected to loosen its indoor masking guidelines to states as soon as next week. So CDC is considering a new benchmark for whether masks are needed, basing it on the level of severe disease and hospitalizations. And then like in recent weeks, the new cases of the Omicron and other variations have been dropping in every state except Maine. And then hospitalizations are declining nationwide. So, and I just got an email from my son's school last night, the Santa Monica School District, saying that the kids are going to be able to be unmasked outside, which is like in our world, it's like shocking news. It's like in LAUSD, which is like the biggest school district or second in the country.
New York's the first.
New York's the first. So they still haven't jumped on board. My whole thing on the mask, I've said it a bunch of times, and even just stuff with like the vaccines and everything in general is, I was okay with like major lockdown, major, you know, procedures to get this stuff under control. My problem is like the half pregnant thing. Like the whole country is like half pregnant. We're kind of doing it. We're kind of not. It's the same thing with gun control. Like unless you really have a unified policy, it doesn't really work.
Well, it doesn't. That's the whole point of this country, the checks and balances. But I guess it came back to bite us in the ass with this.
Yeah. So like for me, it's going to be really interesting to see. I have one kid who actually so far they haven't said anything about them being able to take off the mask. My other son now is going to be able to take it off outside. And I think what they're afraid of, like the main thing that why they're slow, because there's other places in the country that the kids aren't even, I think there's like many places in the country that the kids aren't even wearing masks right now. And I think, were you going to say, Yaron?
No, just it's been like that for a while for a lot of these kids.
Yeah. So I think what LA is doing, and it's just look, it's very hard in light of the Super Bowl. You have all the politicians, all the celebrities, they're going maskless to the Super Bowl game. Like Eric Garcetti, he gets caught being maskless at the game. There's a big uproar against it. Then he goes back to the Super Bowl and does the same exact thing. And I just think it's just really hard to convince people that it's anything other than politics when you're doing that. And I'm a very strong, you know, supporter of all the protocol from the start, but it just seems like it's past its time. Ariane?
I agree with you.
Well, it's proof that it's not working either. You know what I mean? Like it is and it isn't. It's like it's almost impossible to control. So it's like
it really is. It's crazy. But and I got some feedback. So I just posted like last night. I posted there's like sort of breaking news that like in Santa Monica you're going to be able to have your kids be unmasked outside. And one of one of my friends, she was like, well, what about the teachers? Don't they have a say? And it's like, yeah, do they have a say? They do have a say. The problem is that, like, you know, just like every other job, like there's things that come with the job. Like for me, there's all sorts of stuff as a lawyer I have to deal with that are specific to the job. Like here, it's like, what is the metric that people that are opposing these loosening of the regulations, what is a metric that they would be okay with? So like, when would children be able to take their masks off? I haven't heard like a great answer for that. I don't know. So, okay, so have to miss. Okay, so now we're going to go to Novak Djokovic. Okay. So
You got it.
This guy is one of the greatest tennis players to ever live. He's won like 20 Grand Slams. He has stated, he had this whole like dust up in Australia where he potentially was misrepresenting whether he was immune. They basically kicked him out of the country and he wasn't able to play in the tournament there. And he just did a full-length interview and he's really actually like seemingly reasonable when he talks about this. He does not seem extreme, other than the fact that he's anti-vax. But he basically said that he would be willing to give up pretty much the rest of his career and playing in tournaments to avoid having to be forced to do a vaccine. And I think that, like, on the one hand, I respect it that he's standing on principle. On the other hand, it's just really hard for me to understand, like, given that you have this opportunity that you're a very unique athlete playing at the highest levels to be able to walk away from being able to play in these major events. It's just crazy to me. But he basically like if you listen to the interview, he comes off as like relatively reasonable, like principled. He came from a crazy upbringing with like immigrant parents, and he's risen to the top of a sport, one of the greatest ever. And he basically just feels like he wants to have the choice to put this in his body or not.
Makes sense. He's a champ. You know what I mean?
So he's saying he's open to the possibility of being vaccinated in the future because we're all trying to find collectively a best solution to end COVID. And he's saying he was never against the vaccine. He's potentially open to it, but he's like digging his feet in the stand. Like right now, he's not saying he's going to get the vaccine. So that's where we're at.
Little childish.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why?
Because like if he didn't believe in it and something and he was just being an idiot, like, okay, that's one thing. or if like there's a principle there, like, okay, fine. But if he's just saying like, oh, you're telling me to do this, so I'm not doing it.
I agree. Yeah, that's the
Like,
weird
that's
part
a little
of it.
childish.
It's almost like his reasonableness comes up, like makes it unreasonable.
Yeah.
It's like, because he's so reasonable, I'm like, so then why don't you just take the effing thing? Like,
Exactly.
That's the point. He's trying to prove a point.
I
You
know, but
what
what
I mean?
is so the point? He's holding. Like, okay, so it's one thing if you're like trying to make a point and you have your everyday job. The guy, I mean, I guess theoretically he is privileged. He's that person, and he's speaking for tons of people.
But he earned it too. You know what I mean?
did
That's
earn it.
with all those wins and all that.
Yeah.
And it's like, now you're telling me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look,
I could respect his opinion, even though I'm vaccinated. I'm not anti-vax, but hey.
What's your experience? So you've experienced traveling all over the country.
Yeah.
You've been right now, like during COVID,
I've been in Montana,
before COVID.
Texas, Atlanta, Massachusetts, Rhode Island,
Okay,
Chicago.
tell us about COVID in those different areas.
Okay. So in the red states, no one gives a shit. Montana,
What are we talking?
Texas,
how different is life
There's-
in LA versus all
it's
the
like-
redneck states?
it's like 1,000% like
Okay,
different. So, in,
do you
in-
even know that COVID exists in the like?
no,
like,
I'll give Montana a break that it's not so populated. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you go to a restaurant and it says there was a restaurant I actually saw a sign that said, in this establishment we don't force anyone to wear a mask. If you don't like it, you could eat somewhere else.
that reminds me of like the the anti-vaccine restaurant where they said you cannot be
Yeah,
vaxxed in order
yeah.
to eat there.
In Texas,
so what
too.
is it actually? So like, okay, give me some comparisons. In LA, you have to do this. And
Oh yeah. Well, like in LA, you go everywhere and it's like, oh, where's your vax card and this and that. And these are places you've eaten at like for years, for like 5 or 6
Right.
years, and you know everyone. And it's like, but I think mainly like the government's on their ass, so
Right.
they don't want to get shut down. So I understand that, but in all the other states, it's like whatever. Like,
But even with the film, like the catering business, when you're filming there or on set, are they still being tough?
oh, what do you mean?
Like, because right now you're talking about the difference between like California and those
Oh, yeah,
states.
yeah.
When it comes to like actually filming and doing the
oh
catering.
yeah, no,
and those-
when you're there to film, it's like say you're there on behalf of a studio, so you got to follow the studio's rules. So regardless of who that is, it's always a pain in the ass.
Got it. Okay, so bombshell news in the like legal world and in the film world as well. This is the Alec Baldwin case. So the family of the Rust, which is the movie that Alec Baldwin was in, the cinematographer who got shot and killed by Alec Baldwin, seemingly accidentally, they filed a wrongful death suit. And the family filed a wrongful death suit against Baldwin and other film producers, blaming the tragedy on cost-cutting measures and reckless behavior by Baldwin and others. The family, they hired Brian Panish. So for those of you who don't know, Brian Panish is like a LeBron of the legal world. He is an animal. If you are on the other side of a case of Brian Panish, you should be worried. It's not like one of those things where it's like just like somebody who has a big name. This guy is an animal. He gets big verdicts. He gets some of the biggest verdicts to ever.
He's the man.
He's the
pretty much,
man.
yeah.
So the lawsuit places much of the blame on Baldwin, who, according to the lawsuit, refused training in the cross-draw maneuver that he was practicing that day, just 4 feet from Hutchins and other crew members. Now, Aaron Dyer, the attorney for Baldwin and other producers, said any claim that Baldwin was reckless is entirely false. And so I just need a little bit of insight from you, because I have never been... First of all, why the hell... are there, I know people have said this already, but why on earth, and maybe Aaron, you could speak to this too, would a real gun ever be on a set? Explain that to me.
So real guns are on sets all the time. Almost all of these movies have real guns. It's the ammo that is different. They're shooting blanks.
Okay, but why, but like, okay, we're in 2022, okay?
It's because CG is expensive, right? Like there is
Not as expensive as like $100 million lawsuit that they're about to pay out.
Right. But I mean, like their logic there is that CG is really expensive to get the lighting that comes out of the flash of a gun that like hits the light on the actors and all of that. That's really hard to get in post.
Okay.
So what they do is they push it through on camera.
Yeah.
And they just shoot blanks. And that way there is a real flash and there's a real recoil and the actors have something to really like participate with. you know, and it's just like a better experience for them. But I'm sure that, as has happened in other Hollywood accidents, this is going to bring up a lot of changes.
Yeah.
No, big time. No one should ever get hurt filming a movie.
And that's the thing that when you talk about somebody dying and Brian Panish, this attorney, being involved, it's like it's very rare that somebody dies in general without somebody being negligent, right? It's very rare that just a pure accident happens. Now in the legal game, that doesn't mean that the victim themselves can't be negligent. I'm not talking about this incident, but somebody is almost always negligent, and it's just a matter of, is it 100% the person who seems to have committed the act, or sometimes, right, you'll see in a car accident, they'll say it's 50-50. You'll hear it's 60-40. And so a lot of times people will be able to point back to the victim as having part of it. A good example is a slip and fall.
Yeah.
You're in a restaurant, you slip and fall, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times the restaurant will say, yeah, we shouldn't have had the water on the floor, but it was crazy of the person not to see this huge puddle where there was, a cone there. And so in this circumstance, there's obviously no claim that the victim was negligent. She was sitting there doing her job. Yeah. I think this is an incredibly powerful lawsuit that is going to impact so much change. People were negligent. It's just a matter of who. And I think that if you're on the other side of this, if you're an insurer of either the people providing the guns, the people preparing the set, the producers, there is going to be a large check written. There's no question about that. So it's dangerous. It's going to impact tons of people. It's going to change the laws. It's going to change the way people. I still don't understand how. I think it was there was a 24-year-old person armor. And what is that are armorers generally on the set? Are they licensed? Are they supposed to be licensed?
Well, I know a guy, and he told me that this was a lot of money on this set, but he said if a gun goes missing, the first thing he has to do is contact the FBI, and then the FBI comes and shuts down the show. But that was it was a big studio, big budget thing. It wasn't a little small independent film, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. How long is a case like this going to take to go through? So
people should know that what happens is a lawsuit's filed, and people are okay, well, something must happen kind of right away. A lawsuit only, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later in my legal tip, but basically a lawsuit only ends one of two ways. Either a judge or a jury ends it, or a settlement happens. A judge or a jury, that could take anywhere from, is the earliest would be 18 months, something like that, till all the way to 5 years. So it could take 5 years. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's imperfect, but it's the best system we have. So speaking of lawsuits that will likely have a lot of impact, Sandy Hook. Right. So 9 families whose loved ones were killed in the 2012 Sandy Hook shooting accepted a $73 million settlement from the defunct gunmaker Remington, ending a 7-year wrongful death suit that began as unlikely to result in victory and became a landmark case. So the family sought to prove that to a jury that a one-time gun-making giant, Remington, had unlawfully marketed the AR-15 style rifle that a 20-year-old ended up using, and Remington, which declared bankruptcy and was sold off, maintained that it just manufactured a legal gun and that it was sold to the mom, and somehow it got in the hands of the shooter.
Did they accept any fault?
No, I think it was ultimately the insurance company that pays it out. And that's what a lot of people need to understand also, that I don't think they do, which is every time you hear a big lawsuit filed, you think the company's going to be on the hook for it. It's mostly the insurance companies that they have. And that's why it's so important. Every time I'm either filing a lawsuit or every time one of my friends gets sued, I always think about what insurance company could we get involved, because they're the ones with the money. And so this is just, that one of the moms said, they want to discourage gun makers. They want to discourage insurance companies, banking institutions from being involved with gun with gun manufacturers at all, and I'm all in favor of this. I hate guns. I cannot stand guns. I don't know how, and I know there's just so many different opinions on this. Alan, are you a gun guy?
I own guns, but I feel like it's just like a motorcycle. Not everyone should own a motorcycle
Right.
because you're gonna hurt yourself. That same thing. Not everyone should own a gun because they don't know.
It's
how to
it's
do it.
just I've never heard of something good happening, but they always say like the only thing that stops somebody with a gun is a good guy, or a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And I just, if it were up to me, I would be in a gunless world. What about you, Ariane?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
just
that was the if that was possible.
what do you have it? You have it for just pleasure. You have it for protection, for
Yeah,
both.
probably a little bit of both. Ideally, one of my goals is to like go hunt a wild boar and then kill it, butcher it myself, and cook it myself.
Okay.
But that's that aspect of it. But
But you would do it in a humane way, of course.
of course, yeah.
Hunting is acceptable. Hunting, sportsmanship, like that's fine. That's cool.
This goes along. I mean, you're kosher, so what? And is part of you being kosher, Ariane, is like the proper treating of animals, or is it just that
I honestly, you can't ask me these questions. I don't know the answers. I think
you
they
don't know
they-
why you're kosher?
No, I don't know. Like I know it's because they kill
No,
them
I'm asking
humanely.
you why you're kosher.
Oh yeah, I mean it's partially a culture thing. It's partially a religious thing.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm just, President Biden chimed in on this. He called the settlement historic. I think what it does is it really makes these companies, it makes the insurance companies, it makes all the companies that are related to the gun manufacturers a lot more careful how they produce, manufacture, and then definitely how they market the gun.
But another thing is that like this country's been so gun crazy for so long. There's already like millions and millions of guns. That, you know what I mean?
know.
So it's like
It's hard to
you're
pull it
stopping
back.
it too late. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I know. It's really hard to
It's been
reverse
out of
it.
control for.
Australia, Australia basically had one mass shooting. I think it was, I don't remember how many years ago it was. And they
Not
weren't
even that
like,
long ago.
They weren't. They wasn't that long ago. They were not as crazy of a gun culture as America, but they were.
They had a crazy
had
gun
guns.
hunter. Yeah, absolutely.
And they were like, "Fuck this shit." They were like, the moment that thing happened, they took away the guns, and you don't really hear a peep from people.
John Oliver did a piece for The Daily Show where he went down there and like interviewed like all those people who were
Yeah.
involved, all the politicians that were involved. Like that is like an wildly eye-opening piece about Australia getting.
Let's
rid
put
of
a
guns.
link to that in our
Absolutely.
thing.
Link down in the description.
Yeah. Okay. On to a social media issue. So Trump is coming out with this like Truth Social platform, and
Can't wait.
he's gonna try to compete with. I think he's gonna have a hard time though competing with, like, the whole thing is conservatives think they're getting sort of blacklisted, or what's the term they use, Ariane? What's the term that they use? Like the term that conservatives use where they say that like they're posting and all the algorithms like don't favor them. They say
Shadow ban.
Shadow ban.
Shadow ban.
They love that term. They get their hooks into like
Yeah.
a left,
Like good
right,
conspiracy.
everybody. There's always a good conspiracy. They love it. So basically, and it's in the initial press release, they said, "We're here to stand up to the tyranny of big tech." But the experts say that like the inherent nature of the site, that like they're really targeting conservative people, it's gonna make it really hard. It's going to prevent it from reaching the same types of, platform or heights of platforms like Facebook and Twitter. And the thing is, like, I always thought that the appeal for politics and social media was like the dunking on each other. Like, do
Well,
I
yeah.
really want to be on an all left or all right website?
I don't mind if the right goes on an all right platform, because that way they're not indoctrinating new people. You know what I mean? It's like their own echo chamber.
Yeah, but
They're
people
all
will
on that
follow.
platform.
People will follow. Just like I'd say that's how they got trapped in the first place. You know what I mean?
a
With
good point.
with the normal platforms, they were like,
Yeah.
oh, now they're gonna be all about it. And then dumb people are dumb. They're just, the sheep are gonna go
That's true.
follow the other sheep. It's like
That's true. So the thing is that he put out a first post. The first post was, "Get ready, your favorite president will see you soon," and it wasn't a good sign. Like the way that they're marketing it is like they're posting on the social
Well,
media
it's probably
platforms.
gonna be like Trump University and all the other dumb shit.
Every
did.
other fraud
It's
he
all gonna
commits.
fail. And it's
I think
like-
he got. I think he got some money. Like, he's for sure not like investing
of
this out of
course.
his pocket. He got
Yeah.
some sucker to do. There is some grift here. There's
Yeah.
some money making thing that
Yeah.
he's getting out of this. Where I just don't. But I also just don't get it. It seems a little like snowflakey too. Like it seems a little snowflakey to like run away from the other platforms. right? Doesn't
Well,
it?
supposedly they banned him, right? Like
Oh,
it
they
started
did.
with
They did.
Twitter
To be
and all
fair,
that.
to be fair,
To
they
be
did
fair,
ban him. But it just seems like, yeah. So I mean, look.
Yeah,
if-
after a violent insurrection.
Yeah.
what was
you
that?
know,
I'm kidding.
After like,
That's true. So, but I just like one of the fun parts about politics is like there's nothing I love more than watching like a right and a left person go at it either in an interview or in a Twitter exchange. So I just don't like. What are they? It's gonna all be like kumbaya.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, what's the point? Are you gonna sign up? Are you gonna sign? No, we're not. So it's
Yeah.
like, who cares? But
So some other social media news is Facebook, Meta, has agreed to pay $90 million to settle a decades-old class action lawsuit over a practice that allowed the social network to track users' activity. And if you remember this is like when they would put like buttons on other websites. You would go to ESPN.com or Nike.com, and they would have the Facebook like buttons, and it just allowed them to like track you across the internet. And like, I kind of always understood that they were tracking my every move anyway.
It's like,
I never understood like people are like, oh, I can't believe
Yeah,
that
it's so-
that's how they make their money. So what do you think? Arian's smiling. He's not. You're not. By the way, who uses? I just got locked out of my Facebook account on my phone for the last month and a half. I only can access it on my computer. I do not miss it at all.
yeah, that's great. That's great. Apple did their thing with the iOS 14, 15, or whatever it was with the privacy update.
Yeah.
Just crushed Facebook. Oh, it's my favorite thing. Every time I read an article about it, I'm like, hell yeah.
The only thing I don't like is that like part of our advertising that we do for our law firm is on Facebook, and I
Yeah,
think
like it's tough for small business. Sure,
Yeah.
you can't target the same way, but the privacy rights we were giving away are just like
it's just a
unacceptable.
generational gap too with Aaron and us. It's like, I'm sure when we got on Facebook, it was like we're around his age, and now it's
It was the
turned
coolest
into
thing.
it's something so different now, and it's like
Yeah.
for old people. And I'm
is
sure
anybody
you don't care
on?
about
Is
it.
your age anybody on?
Nobody my age group is on Facebook.
No,
Nobody
Nobody-
on your age group would ever like. They may have an
Yeah,
account.
yeah,
well, for
like I have an
grandma
account.
and,
I
like-
check Facebook
Have
every
you
day.
ever posted?
Yeah, absolutely. But like for like big things, I'm also like a private guy in general.
You are, even though you're on like a multiple podcasts talking all the time. You
Yeah,
are.
barely I talk.
So the settlement is one of the largest in the history of social media, but it's like it really is like a not that. I mean, for the it's a $600 billion company, if not more. Maybe Facebook's even bigger than that. The $90 million settlement check is no big deal for them. I think they're going to continue exploiting data
Yeah,
of
of
their
course,
users.
it's like
That's the whole
it's a
benefit
new
of
way,
it.
yeah. And then with Instagram and all the other ones they own, it's like
Yeah. So it's a wild week of lawsuit litigation. Anything else any other insight, Alan, you can give us into? I also just want to like get some insight into you running your business. So people hearing you might just think you're just a caterer that does a birthday once in a while. And by the way, you do those because you've done my
friends.
birthdays and
Yeah.
my kids' birthdays and everything that I've ever done for the past 10 years. And you're the greatest caterer to ever live. You're the Michael Jordan of catering. But tell us a little bit how you grew the business and how it is operating as an entrepreneur.
well, it wasn't my passion when I was a kid, like, oh, I want to be a chef or whatever. But when I was like 18, I didn't grow up like in a rich neighborhood, or, my we're first generation immigrants. So
From where?
From my mom's from Guatemala. And then
No dad in the picture?
no dad in the picture. And then so it was like I was 18 and it was like, what am I gonna do? I was broke waiting for the bus, going to junior college. I'm like, shit, if I do this for the next 5 years of my life, I'm gonna be waiting for the bus. And I really wanted a motorcycle. So my cousin was doing real well catering for movies. So I called him like, hey dude, like, are you hiring? He's like, yeah. So he hooked me up, and I worked my way up straight from the bottom. Like the first thing I
Like
did was
washing dishes?
washing a truck and stuff like that. Like they're catering trucks, like they look.
You've always operated in the catering truck type thing, never like in a
Yeah, never in a
formal-
restaurant, never in anything like that. So I started from the bottom and worked my way all the way up, and I fit in because like back in the day it was harder to get in, and like it's all these crazy people you meet.
unions and stuff.
No, it's just, well, that too, but like I mean, like the whole set vibe itself. Like you could be talking to someone who's like their dad was a captain in the Navy, and then the next guy you're talking to with the same job is like he's a recovering heroin addict for the last 10 years,
Right.
and that's what I love about it.
So
Like, it's-
you're dealing with all sorts of people. And and then you've grown it from like where
Yeah, I
you were to
went
now
from-
you're like the go-to
No,
caterer.
I'm not the guy. I'm one of them. I'm slowly becoming, as like a lot of the older guys retire. Like, and there's a few young guys that want to do this because it's brutal. Well,
But you're modest. You've done like list some of the movies.
yeah, I
and
did.
all.
I worked on The Office for like 7 to 8 years.
Uh-huh.
When I was in my 20s, that was a blast. Then I did La La Land. I did the recent Dexter in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
and,
And
it's,
so right now you have the landscape of your business is your family lives here, but you're traveling all over the country. You have
Yeah.
shows everywhere. Where is the place to film right now? I know that at
Well,
some
it's
point
like
it was
Atlanta,
Canada,
Atlanta, Massachusetts, Chicago. I'm trying to stick to just 2, but it's hard when you got to chase that money.
And so what's the key? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you got 2 little ones to
Yeah.
support. And what's the key been? What's the key been to managing? Because you are, when you do a favor and like cater like our type of stuff, I just know it's going to be rock solid. Everything's going to be handled from A to Z. So I imagine that's what propelled you.
It's like that, but on a whole different level. You know what I mean? Like you gotta do all this compliance, and it's more about compliance with like trying to work with the assistant directors and give them what they want. Because it's not like, oh, we call the shots. It's like, no, they'll call you like at say midnight and say like, hey, we're changing. You got to do breakfast now at 5 in the morning instead of 7 in the morning. And it'll be like you get to say, for example, you're doing breakfast in Old Town Pasadena, then you're moving to Eagle Rock for lunch, and it's 200 people. So you got to figure all that out first before you like.
And you've scaled, like, so one of the things that lawyers and people struggle with in general is scaling. So, right, they come to you, they come to Benji because they want Benji to be the lawyer.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with this other person. You have that, I mean, there's arguably nothing more personal than what you eat.
Yeah.
And people love having that great service, and they know that Alan's there. Like when I know, I love your guys are
Yeah.
amazing. But like when you're there, you just know that it's going to have that special touch. How do you do it? How do you scale without you being present? I know it's tough, but like what's
That's
your
the hardest part, and it's like just right now it's to the point where everyone's short on labor, like every
Yep.
industry, and especially ours. So like my producers who I'm more comfortable with, I'll be like, look, I'm not gonna be here this time, but the next one I'll be there.
Yeah.
And we figure it out.
How tough are the, like, I mean, especially like it's one thing if you're feeding a bunch of just random office workers. You're feeding people who are extremely vain. They care. There's every single diet you can imagine. How tough is it to cater to all the different people in the
No,
business?
it's not that tough, but like they gotta understand. Sometimes it's like, for example, I try not to cook with nuts because it's gonna be a lot more of a problem if you kill someone. You know what I mean, with a nut allergy than
Right.
somebody. The actor didn't have
Very nice.
walnuts in this dish, and it's like, dude,
Yeah.
like that's gonna mess up the production a lot more than
Yeah.
than not having nuts.
How do you get the business? So these like huge shows are hiring
Well,
you.
it's been like networking all this time. People that I started out with when I was just a helper, and they were just like production assistants.
Yeah.
And now they're becoming production supervisors. And you build a relationship with them, and then they get hired by the networks.
What's been the key though? The key to keep it successful? What's been the
Well,
key?
it's like just the discipline, and like it's easy to get sidetracked and start partying or whatever, or being like, hey, I'm not gonna show up just because
Yeah.
I'm out there messing around. No, it's like it's discipline. You gotta be there. You gotta make sure everything. I still do things that I did when I didn't have as much money, when I just started. You know what I mean?
I think that's what's so tough also about becoming like a parent. Like, well, I'll say for me it's tough. For you it's probably particularly tough because I came from a privileged background and you came from a not so privileged
Yeah.
background. So from even I have such a great sense of responsibility that for me to actually relax and chill, I feel extremely guilty.
Yeah.
I don't know how Arian, I don't know how you are with that, but like, and you come from like an immigrant family, like
Yeah, I'm first generation too.
yeah. So like for me to actually relax and just do things and go on vacation or just fuck around.
No, I could do that because like, so when I bust my ass, you know what I mean? It's like I bust my ass, but when I go, say I love motorcycle racing, I'll
Yeah.
go to Austin to the big race,
Yeah.
and that's my weekend.
Yeah.
I've earned it.
That's great.
But,
That's great. You deserve it, man. You've busted
Yeah.
your ass for so
But
long.
another thing, like my discipline comes from my mother. Like I saw her as a
She's
woman.
such a hard worker.
She would wake up at 4 a.m. by herself and walk like 5 miles to work. Like
That's not one of those bullshit stories where like,
No.
oh, we went to, you know, yeah.
And it's like now as a man, and I understand, I see like how much danger it was and how much, but she did it, for
Yeah.
us. So it's like anything less for me,
Yeah.
would be, I'd be letting her down or like letting myself down at the
That's
end.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I admire you. I respect you. All right, we are going to move into legal tip.
This is the legal tip of the moment, sponsored by the Ball Crushers at Benowitz Law Corporation. If you are an employee who is experiencing health issues that are negatively impacting your ability to work, you should speak with an experienced employee rights attorney like me. You have a lot of rights in the workplace when it comes to your health, but those rights are governed by a complicated set of laws and regulations under which it is easy for you to screw up and sacrifice your rights. Don't let that happen and speak with an experienced employee rights attorney like me today.
My name is Benji Smith of Smith Law. We do employment, personal injury, and class actions. So a question that I get often is from my from my clients who are employees, they say, can we get the employer to pay the attorney fees that I'm going to have to pay you, Benji? And first of all, for those of you who don't know, the way we charge in employment cases generally is a percentage of the case. And so what we do is there's two buckets. One, either you get a judgment, and that's after years of litigation, or you settle the case out of court. And if they settle out of court, they don't care what amount goes to the employee or what amount goes to the attorney fees. So they just give you a bucket and you have to sort of figure it out between you and your client, and it's based on an agreement you have. If you go to court, you could then ask for the attorney, the court to award extra attorney fees. So that's generally how attorney fees are dealt with in these cases. If you have any questions, give us a call. All right, Alan, it's so great to have you. And Alan, I don't know if you need business, but if you do, how should people get in touch with you?
Not right now, but if we're available for your project, it's always amork1@me.com. You could always drop me a line and we'll go from there.
Man, the guy's busy.
Yeah.
Okay, we will see you next time, Law Flip.
Law flip, objection, your honor. Turn the game upside down. Law flip, objection, your honor. Turn the game upside down.
Connect with us on Instagram. We're at LawFlip. LawFlip is produced by Blue Crescent Media. You can learn more about BCM at bluecrescentmedia.com. Our intro music is provided by Penn Practice, and our LawFlip identity was created by Garrett Whiston and Travis Nagel. And lastly, this podcast is made available by Smith & Benowitz for educational and entertainment purposes only. By listening to this podcast, you understand that no attorney-client relationship is being formed between you and Smith & Benowitz or any of its attorneys. This podcast should not be used as a substitute for competent legal advice from a licensed professional attorney in your state. To the extent this podcast may be considered an advertisement, Benjamin Smith is the attorney responsible for this advertisement. Thank you.